Thank you for listening to Depictions Media Radio. Welcome back, everyone. I'm here today with Trish Mandewo. Trish is a multi-award winning serial entrepreneur, mentor, and business consultant. Trish's experience is in business development for startups and SMEs, with a unique perspective on organizational culture, processes, and partnerships. She is also City Councillor for the City of Coquitlam in British Columbia, co-founder of Women's Collaborative Hub Society. Through her company, Ubuntu StratEdge, Trish is a diversity and inclusive consultant for Simon Fraser University Venture Connections Entrepreneurship Program. She is also an author and a motivational speaker. Welcome to the show, Trish. It's a couple of tongue twisters in there when you actually get ready to say them or read them out, right?
I know. I gave you some tongue twisters.
Yeah. But there's other things that you're involved in a community and that actually help business development and help create that diversity and inclusion in the marketplace. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that before we get started with your tips?
Yeah, sure. So I am one of those people that wears several hats. But what I love is that I only do the things that I love to do. So besides being a local government politician, as you mentioned, I'm also a business consultant. I'm also a business consultant. On the local government side, I sit on the Union of BC Municipalities executive, and I am on the Economic Development Committee. So definitely, we are looking at the economic development for the whole of British Columbia and how we can promote all the local governments to support small businesses, or all businesses, I should say.
Well, that doesn't sound like exactly an easy job to have, though. Especially when
it doesn't sound like
it sounds rewarding, but it doesn't sound like it's exactly an easy job to have.
No,
sitting on a committee
very,
like that.
Very rewarding. I am one of those people that truly loves to support businesses. My passion is seeing people come from their idea stages and get into business, and if they're in business, to make sure from the government perspective, to make sure that they thrive and that we give them all the support that they need to thrive. Wow. Especially during this time that we are facing, the COVID time.
Yeah. So, so you offer that the support and I guess also in honing of ideas and making sure that they develop into sound business plans.
That's correct. That's correct.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, we are from the local government perspective, we are very limited on what we can do. We can provide a platform for businesses to thrive, through our zoning laws and the bylaws and everything. But we can do much more. The federal government and the provincial government can do more than what the local governments can do. So our hands are a bit tied, but the things that we can control, we try to do best.
Absolutely. So anyway, we have 5 tips today, and why don't you tell us a little bit about what your tips are going to describe?
So the reason why we are having this talk is because, as everybody knows, COVID hit, and of course it came by surprise to everybody. And the reality is that in Canada, for example, 70% of businesses are small enterprises. And I'm talking about businesses that have less than 10 employees.
Right.
So now you put in, it's already hard to be a small to medium business enterprise, and you put in the curveball of COVID and the disruption that COVID has caused. And business owners are now finding themselves struggling to survive. So as you know, Michael, now most businesses are getting back. We did the phase 1 and phase 2 of our businesses opening, and people are going back and opening their doors. So what we need to talk about today is what do they need to do in order to survive, and now that their doors are open. And I'm not only talking about businesses addressing physical distancing regulations. I'm talking about getting back to the fundamentals of their business plan. Because their business plans, as they were before COVID, will need a lot of tweaking for them to survive post-COVID. And many of them need to repivot for the new normal to work. So I have some tips today that will help them look at this new reality and what is required for them, in order to innovate, to be flexible, to be adaptable, and to face the challenges. So the first thing that I want to share is that they need to look at their finances. Are they going to need more funding in order to recover? If so, how much do they need? And if they are going to require borrowing money from, banks or other institutions, are their business plans up to date? Because that will be required, right?
Right.
And during the time off, I hope that business owners didn't just sit back, when businesses were closed. I hope they were going back and looking at their profit and loss statements and looking at their cash flows. If they had a large amount of cash on hand prior to the pandemic, then they have nothing to worry about. But more often than not, small to medium enterprises do not have much cash on hand, and they will need some working capital in order to jumpstart their business operations. So that's why I'm saying, that's the number one thing they need to do is to do that financial review to see where they stand and what they need to do in order to move forward. So that's the first tip.
Right. That doesn't. I know a lot of business owners because we bring a lot of, especially small business owners, onto our shows to interview them either as experts or because they have something valuable to contribute to our community one way or the other, and the financial outlook is always a tough thing. And is there a sub tip to this where I say that I need say $30,000 to do something, but reality, because they may have overlooked something or missed something, that they might need say $90,000 to actually do what they need to do. How do they make sure that they've actually got to the right dollar number that they actually will need?
Yeah, so I recommend that they work with their accountant because it is important for them to know. They have to know what their pre-COVID numbers were in order to know how much they need.
Mm-hmm.
I find that a lot of small to medium businesses would just say, you know what, if I get $10,000, if I get $30,000, we'll be able to do 1, 2, 3, 4. Because they've got a couple of things in their minds that they're saying, if we can only go online and have a good system, if we can only do this. But they're not looking at the holistic picture.
Right.
That's why, like going through the tips that I'm going to give, they can look at all the aspects of their business. And where they need help, where they don't have the expertise, I highly, highly recommend bringing in someone from the outside, either a business consultant that can come do some mapping and highlight the areas, the blind spots that they might not be seeing.
Okay.
Otherwise, yes, it's easy for them to just come up with a figure and then get frustrated very quickly when you realize, oops, what we have isn't going to cut it.
Right. Okay. Great.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So ready to move on to the next one?
Yeah, let's go with the next one.
Yeah. So the second point that I really, really recommend is for them to review their processes. So prior to COVID, it's easy, when things are working and you're going forward, people don't want to disrupt things. You know the saying, if it's not broken, don't fix it, right? Mm-hmm. But COVID has brought a different perspective to this. They need to go back and look at the pre-COVID and do the landscaping for that. Sit down with their staff and ask their staff what was working and what was not working. And also now with this new curveball, what do we need to change? What can we keep and what can we purge? This is so, so, so important because so much money is lost through inefficient processes. Mm-hmm. So in my opinion, COVID is gave them the gift of time to where they had time to look and say, you know what, this is the time for change. And a lot of times, too, employees might be resistant to change. But now, because you're coming in, you're saying, well, we have to implement new things and we have to be able to survive. Suddenly, everybody is open for change. And everybody's looking to say, what do we need to do so we can survive? And employees look at it and say, I need my job back. So, yes, what do we need to do to make sure that we are efficient? So this is the best time for them to do a process review. And that starts with a pre-COVID landscaping and making. I'm a list maker, and I highly recommend that they do that. Sit down with the staff and say, okay, let's go through our process, whether it's the sales process or whether it's a packaging process, whatever processes they have in their organization, list them one by one and go down and list each and everything that's working and what's not working. And the number one person or the number one the best eyes when it comes to processes are the people that are actually on the front lines.
Right.
They know what needs to change. But a lot of business owners make a mistake by not going to them and asking, what do you suggest? How should we do things differently? So that's for those that have employees.
Right.
For the solopreneurs,
mm-hmm.
you can do the same process by yourself, or if you need an external lens, then ask your mentor to just have a session one day and go through the process. I do that a lot with all the businesses that I work with. We would do the landscape processing, where sometimes I just go in and I can spend a day just watching, so I can see how their processes work. And then at the end of a day, and if depending on what they do, sometimes I need 2 days, I would just be there, silent, just observing what they do. And then I can come up with my report that shows, where they can change so that they can be more efficient. So whether you are a solopreneur or you have employees, either way, you can look at your processes and be able to change them. And better to do it now before you get back to full swing, before your business is, back to where it was, so that you can really, really be efficient.
Right. So review processes and more or less, as they say, cut the fat out of them, make them more efficient. Okay, great.
Exactly. And I like to tie also, when you talk about processes, you can tie it to the risk assessment and risk managing as well. Mm-hmm. Because while you're at it, by making everything efficient, you are also reducing the risk and also managing it. So why not, tackle that, because it's really, really critical for the business to survive.
Right.
Yep. So move on to my third point. So my third suggestion is for them to look at their digital transformation and cybersecurity strategy. We all know that with COVID, a lot of businesses have had to go online. Mm-hmm. And if they don't have an online presence, they're scrambling right now to say, how can we be online? Look at the restaurant industry, for example. Now they're opening back up, but they can only have a fraction of the number of people in the restaurant. Right. I actually went out. It's my husband's birthday today, and traditionally, we'll go to a restaurant. There's nobody there. Even though they can take people are still scared to go out. So businesses have to think about, okay, our doors are open, but we still need to get the business moving. How can we go ahead and do it? So an online presence is very, very critical, right?
Right.
So if you're having people, taking orders online, putting orders online, is your website optimal? Is it optimized? Is it, easy to manage? You always have to look at it from a client perspective to make sure that they have the best experience on your website. And as well, this influx of businesses going digital is kind of like a hacker's heaven. The hackers are looking for those loopholes so that they can jump in.
Yeah. In the coaching consultant sector, look at the Zoom bombs, where hackers decided, hey, wouldn't it be fun just to bomb in on a few Zoom calls, right? And and everybody started getting upset about it, but there are ways to ensure that that the hackers can't get through, or it just becomes very difficult for them to get through passwords and protocols, right?
Exactly.
So we make sure we build those in.
Yeah, and Zoom is working hard on their side, right? And not only Zoom, but other providers that are in that space. They're all working hard to make sure that it's secure. But in this case, I'm talking about the things that are in the hands of these business owners, the things that they can control, which is their website, their, POCs, their paint of pages.
Right.
Is it secure? What are they doing to make sure that it's secure? Mm-hmm. That's, something that they definitely need to make sure. And if they didn't have any virus software, definitely need to have it. Because if your website is down and that's where your business is coming through, you're going to be down.
Right.
It actually happened to us for our nonprofit. We have an annual event where we get about 400 to 500 people. And 2 weeks before our event was supposed to be going live, we got hacked. And we could not access the website. We ended up having to build a brand new website. So that was a lesson learned, right? And we were not revenue making. So for a business that is depending on revenue coming from the website, a couple of weeks post-COVID of being hacked and being down will be detrimental. So I highly recommend that small to medium enterprises look at their cybersecurity and make sure that they're properly covered and secured. Okay,
so build up the online presence and make sure that that your cybersecurity is as top notch as you can get, right?
Exactly. Yep, and on the digital transformation side too, I really recommend the communication. I tie communication to this because in an effort to be efficient, instead of sending emails one by one, if they have a portal through their website where they can be sending out communications, whether it's specials that they are having, whatever it is, communicating with the customer is very critical during this time. And I hope that they were doing it also when they were offline, because the last thing they want, the last thing that businesses want is to lose customers because you've been silent. And, customers are debating, they're going, is my favorite store closed? My favorite shop in Coquitlam Center closed, the shoe shop. And they send us an email. So suddenly everybody's thinking, oh my gosh, what about this shop? Are they going to survive? What about this one? I really like this one. So people are really wondering, if their businesses where they shop at are surviving. So it's critical for businesses to be connecting with their clients and keeping them abreast of where they're at and whether, if they have changed their hours, what are the hours? So use that portal. If they have CRMs, use that and be communicating with the clients.
Right.
Okay. And as well on the website, they need to make sure they have the updated information.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've noticed that that there are a number of websites out there that that the information is actually outdated.
For sure.
So it's a good chance to actually get that done. Yeah,
I showed up at one of the restaurants that we go to sometimes, and their website said they opened until 8 o'clock. Mm-hmm. We got there and there was nobody. So the next day when my daughter called, they said, "Oh, yeah, no, we are changing it. Some days we close at 4, some days we close at 6." But it says nothing is said on their website. So that's a good way to lose clients right there.
Yeah.
Right? Because once you think they're closed, you're not going to, at least we called the next day because, it's people that we know, so we wanted to make sure. But businesses need to be adamant and make sure that their clients know exactly when they're open and any other changes.
Right. Okay. So
moving on to the next point, the next advice is for them to develop a timeline. So with all this, businesses are going to find themselves having to phase in, their business and opening shortened hours and bringing in employees little by little. And, there's so many changes that they have to do. So the best way that will bring less stress is for them to sit down and do a timeline, prioritize all the things that they need to do, and have a detailed outline. And with that, they need to attach specific goals. If you're saying we're going to bring in 2 employees back, if you bring 2 employees back, what revenue do you need to start making or, before you can bring in 2 more or 3 more? Mm-hmm. Set a timeline and make sure that the goals are measurable so that by having those performance indicators, they'll be able to ensure that they're moving in the right direction and that they have, the ultimate goal is to bring all their employees back. That's the best scenario. And when that happens, what does that look like? And how do we get there? The only way they can know that is by making sure that they follow and just do that timeline and follow it to the T.
Okay. So have a timeline and do things in stages according to that timeline, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah. So, and the last point I wanted to mention is that they need to create a contingency plan for the next crisis. This one caught us by surprise. But now, going forward, there is no reason why any business, small, medium, or large, should be caught by surprise. The way they need to think is, what if the next wave of COVID hits by the end of this year? What measures are they taking right now to ensure that they will survive that next wave?
Yeah.
Start communicating with the clients right now. Build a good CRM. Have a website optimized and ready to go so that you can continue, whether it's pick up or whether it's, delivering your service online. Have that contingency plan so that never again should you be caught by surprise. Learn from how it was in this last shutdown, and then now start thinking forward. And it's also very good to brainstorm and to look at the bigger businesses. I always say that small businesses need to learn to do business like large businesses. So what we can do is we go and we look at how big businesses approach things, and we scale it to fit our small businesses so that we can look at all the efficiencies and all the planning and be prepared just like the big businesses are. They have the luxury of having in-house business analysts and business consultants and risk managers. They have it all. But as an SME, you don't. But what you can do is get a mentor, from the big business that has that lens. And they can come and tell you, this is what you can do from where you are.
Right.
So having a mentor is really, really critical because you can get that information, shared through your mentor.
Right. Now, all the departments and things that the big enterprises have, as a small business, we can attain those same systems of analysis and supports and backups through surrounding smaller business consultants who do these sort of things, right? Can't we?
Oh yeah. Oh, you sure can. That's what I do.
Yeah.
And as you know, Michael, I wrote a book last year. My book is called Growth Strategies for the Hungry Entrepreneur. And in this book, I navigate the sometimes murky waters of entrepreneurship, and I try to be, to make the book be that resource so that small businesses can go and extrapolate things that they normally don't think about and position themselves for growth. And in the book also, I share about the agile methodology. Large companies have business analysts, like I said, on board who help them diminish the risk of failed projects and by analyzing the processes at all levels of planning. Small to medium enterprises don't have that luxury. So in most cases, mistakes are identified way too late. So now more than ever, small businesses need to implement the agile methodology by having checkpoints often in their business processes. If it's not their strong suit, bring in some help. Bring in consultants like me. Bring in now you've got the CEOs for hire, right? Bring in that extra help so that you can have an external lens. Like what I do for myself is when I go into a business and I do that landscaping and I give them their report, I can then link them to people that can come in and help them in the specific areas where their weaknesses are. So there's no need to fail blindly. You need, in order for small to medium enterprises to know where their weaknesses are, they need to know the points first. They need to know where their blind spots are. And that's what I help them do.
Awesome. Yeah.
So my passion definitely is, I know that being a small to medium business owner is tough. And I know that they put in a lot of hours already. So now having the COVID kink is not going to help things. and they're probably going to work even more hours because of SERB, some employees don't want to come back to work.
Mm-hmm.
So business owners are going to be struggling to get help. They're going to be working even extra hours. So it's very, very important that they make sure that they are financially sound, that they review their processes so they can be efficient, and that they look at their digital transformation and cybersecurity strategy, develop a good timeline, and more so have that contingency plan for the next crisis.
Okay. So you mentioned your book. Where's the best place to get the book?
So my book is on Amazon.ca and also Amazon.com. And it's called Growth Strategies for the Hungry Entrepreneur.
Great. Growth Strategies for the Hungry Entrepreneur. And
exactly.
What are the best ways to find you and work with you?
So the best way to find me is to go to my website. They can go to Trish Mandewo, my name.com, or they can just Google me. If you Google Trish Mandewo, you will find me all over the web. And as well, if they go on Facebook, they can find me through my book, Growth Strategies for the Hungry Entrepreneur, through my company, Ubuntu StratEdge, or through my personal website. So, and I'm on all social media. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. And if you just Google Trish, my first name and last name, Mandewo, Trish Mandewo, they'll be able to find me. And I welcome any questions that anyone has. They can either email me or they can find me through the portals that I just mentioned.
Awesome. So thank you for joining us today. And thank you for those tips. Being a small enterprise on our end, we will be looking more into in placing some of the strategies and tips that you just mentioned. So thank you for sharing those.
No, thank you so much for having me, Michael. And you have a beautiful day.
Okay. And thank you, everybody, for listening. And please do implement the tips that Trish has given us, and so that we all can thrive through this time and keep our business doors open so we can serve our communities.
Is it
This show has been produced by Depictions Media. Please contact us at depictions.media for more information.